Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Underdog episode. Today we got Season 4, Episode 5, Detonate. A soft hand is holding a gauze, dabbing someone's bloody face. The man turns out to be Alan, and he's flinching each time the gauze touches his face. Would you quit that? Mandy pulls away, glaring down at Alan, who's sitting in a wooden chair. Not my fault that it hurts like shit. Mandy sets the gauze down on the table next to them. And just to get this straight, someone fought you at the store? Yeah, that's it. Mandy glances at the clock on the microwave, seeing it's 4 a.m. Yeah, so what actually happened? Alan sighs, leaning his elbow on the table, his head resting in his palm. I just got into a scuffle. A scuffle? Mandy sighs and picks back up the gauze, along with the cleaner, putting the opening on the gauze and dampening the fabric. Mandy grabs the top of Alan's head and continues cleaning his cheek. I'm not related to Atlas. Mandy furrows her eyebrows, still dabbing Alan's cheek. I'm not a twin, like I said. Mandy's dabbing gets rougher, her face showing irritation. So is your name even Alan? Yes, it is. And while I'm at it, I guess I should tell you something else. Mandy sets the gauze down and twists the cap of the cleaner back on. She puts her hand on the table and leans on it, waiting for Alan's confession. You see that other speedy guy running around? So that's you. I didn't even say that. You were getting to it. Alan taps his foot on the ground. Why? I had nowhere to live and I used you. I'm sorry. Mandy's expression softens, her face searching Alan's eyes. Her eyes searching Alan's face. It's fine, I get it. Alan seems surprised, looking up at Mandy. Really? Yeah, now, let me go back to sleep. Mandy rubs her eyes and walks away from Alan. It cuts Dylan on the top of the office building, staring at the pink moon. As he continues staring, the moon seems to get a hazy stretch on it. Dylan rubs his eyes violently, itching and rubbing them, the camera flashing between different angles. He stops rubbing his now red eyes, and the moon is still pink and hazy, as the moon starts to shift, splitting into two different moons. Dylan starts to sweat. He bends down and rubs his temple. Images of the moon and Mandy flash within his brain. He clutches onto his stomach before it cuts to him puking over the side of the roof. He bends back up and wipes his mouth off, looking back to the moon, which is still splitting. It cuts to Dylan walking on the street, looking around at everyone else. People are holding their phones up, taking pictures of the moon. Dylan releases a sigh, relieved to not be the only one seeing the double moon. Dylan looks around frantically as everyone around him is stopping and admiring. He grasps onto the sides of his head before rubbing his temple. The camera pans up to the moons before cutting to an angle of the moons with black beams in front of them. Bugs chirp as the camera stills on the moon. A loud gunshot bursts through the air, and it cuts to a girl with a blonde ponytail holding the gun just shot, with shooting muffs on her ears. It cuts to an angle going down the sights of the pistol. She lowers it, and it focuses to a white target with red lines painted on it. She sets the pistol on the barrier separating the room. She removes the muffs and puts them by the pistol. She fixes her hair by her ears before turning around and walking out the section. As she continues walking, it zooms out to show a multi-floor shopping mall. Guards standing and walking around wearing dark green uniforms with armor on, holding AR and other weapons. It's dimly lit by floodlights set up on the walls, with the roof broken open. But most of all, banners are hung around, naming off their sections, with the serpent insignia painted on them in sloppy black strokes. It cuts back to the girl walking through the mall. She nods at people walking past her and says hey to a few. Eventually, she reaches the gated-off store of the mall. She bends down and lifts up the gate, slipping under it. Inside, there's no light except a small sliver entering through the crevices of the gate. She walks to the back of the store and opens a back door, entering into a narrow hallway painted white. Inside, there are more guards, but less than there were outside the store. As she goes down the hallway, she glances at the guards, giving them slight nods, until she reaches a black door with a metal handle, 2 guards standing on either side. Both guards nod at the girl, and she goes to the handle, grabbing and twisting the door open. Inside, Misner is sitting at a black table directly in front of the door. the room's candle light flickering across his face. Hey, Lisa? Lisa pulls the chair opposite of Misner out and sits in it, crossing her legs and staring at him. Has he been back at the office? Lisa shakes her head, leaning against the desk. We saw him, but he vanished the last time we checked. Misner leans back in his chair, itching his neck. Let's just topple the building. Lisa's eyes widen as she leans in closer, her mouth dropping in response. We have explosives. Sound out a team and blow that damn building up. Misner leans up and opens a drawer on the desk, pulling out a box of cigars. Lisa gets out of her chair and begins to walk towards the door. Oh, and hey? Misner places a cigar into his mouth, holding a lighter up to it. If he's there... Command 15. Lisa nods firmly and turns back to the door, the ignition of the cigar being the last thing in the scene as it cuts to the warehouse. At the warehouse, the team is sitting there, nobody interacting. The sun is shining through the grates on the roof. Alan's reading a book titled The Laws of Speed. Jake is sitting down and staring at the wall, glancing at the roof every now and then. Zara and Miranda are sitting by each other, but both are on their phones. Miranda glancing at Jake often, due to their conversation last night. Alan, reading the books, begins to grimace as a sneeze approaches. He lowers the book out of his face and sneezes, the noise rebounding against the walls of the warehouse. Bless you. Alan sniffles and brings his book back to his face. Thanks. Alan flips a page he was reading and goes to the next. Jake groans and rubs his eyes with his hands.
Does anything happen in this city anymore?
We just had a killer robot, and besides, those serpents, they're not gone. Jake smirks slightly, looking around at the other members. Zara glances up at Jake, seeing him observing. Uh-oh. Jake gets up and runs to the corner of the warehouse, lugging out a whiteboard.
Let's compile some stuff about them.
Alan closes the book and walks up to Jake by the whiteboard. Let me see the marker. Alan gestures for the dry erase marker in Jake's hand. Jake hands it to Alan and he uncaps the marker. He raises it up and begins to draw 3 sharp, straight lines forming an S. Alan points at it. This. It's plastered on nearly everything they wear. Armor that they wear. Alan turns back around to the board and draws a bland face onto it, and then an S above the right eye. One person had this tattoo. Figured it might be their leader. Okay. Maybe I'll ask Dylan some stuff. Yeah? You're the only one he doesn't hate, so... He doesn't hate you guys. He's just... His mental is just not... Alan squints at Zara, waiting for a good answer. Zara sighs and strolls over in a portal. Great. As Zara walks through the portal and it closes behind her, the 3 stand around silently. Alan's still irritated. Mandy knows I'm the speedster.
Who?
It cuts to Dylan sitting at Atlas's grave, the sun, which is slightly illuminated pink from the moon, blazing on Dylan's bare neck. Dylan clears his throat. The moon was pink last night. Dylan sighs, beginning to cry. Who am I kidding? I need to talk to someone who's alive. Yeah, you do. Dylan jumps at Mandy's voice and immediately looks back, easing once he notices who it is. Mandy stands by Dylan. Do you know Alan? Sadly. Why? He's the hero? Dylan snaps his head to Mandy. He tell you that? Mandy sits down by Dylan in the grass. Yeah. Told me he wasn't related to Atlas either. Wait, why do you think I know Alan? He's mentioned you before. Dylan's heart sinks. And what did he tell you about me? Mandy raises an eyebrow at Dylan's reaction. I said I saw you at the grave and he said he knew you. Didn't seem very fond of you, though. Dylan nods. One of Zara's portal breaks the silence and Zara walks through, surprised to see Mandy. What the... Well, shit. Hey. Mandy stands up and backs up. You... Zara chuckles, bending over slightly. Mandy, right? Mandy's eyebrows are furrowed as she looks from Dylan to Dylan and to Zara again. Relax. Dylan, don't tell me you're some superhero, too. Dylan gives Mandy an annoyed look before walking to Zara, whispering to her, What do you want? I need to ask you some stuff. Really? After you boot me out? I didn't want to. We've been talking about it? Zara's mouth opens, but no words come out, and Dylan shakes his head in disbelief and walks off. Dylan! Dylan ignores Zara and just keeps walking, Mandy watching the interaction unfold. So, you're the magician. Zara sighs, dropping her head. Yeah, I am. Alright. It cuts to a serpent holding a black square of red, green, and blue wires wrapped together with black ropes. There's a red flashing circle on the front of the wires. The serpent brings the contraption up to a wall and rips off a strand of rope, sticking it to the wall of the building they're in. As the serpent walks off, it zooms out to show more of the same devices scattered on all of the walls of the building. The serpent walks out of the front door of the building and onto the sidewalk next to the busy street. They reach for the walkie clipped onto their shirt and talk into it, beginning a transmission. Prepped. They lower their hand and walk out of frame, the building still in the background. People walk past the building and slowly the camera zooms in on it. Before, the building's bottom section explodes, sending bricks and cement flying onto the road, causing cars to swerve. As the dust fills the surrounding area, the building begins to topple over. On the ground, people start to run away as Alan speeds in wearing his suit. Alan looks up at the falling building, looking it up and down, trying to decide what to do. Alan tries to run, but it cuts to a small device sliding across the floor. 4 petals of the metal device open, revealing a small shiny nozzle sticking out of the top. Below the nozzle, inside the device still, 2 metal plates open, allowing a purple and blue swirly beam to shoot out of the nozzle. As it's flowing through the air in an upward spiral, it eventually stops and begins to spread out, creating a force field of the same color and swirls. Inside of the force field, Alan is in a running motion, but is frozen in place. The camera pans to the right, and a man in a long black leather trench coat, black boots, black pants, and a black shirt. His black hair is slicked back, and the right side of his face is burn marked, coursing with purple energy that is identical to the energy coming out of the device. The man rocks a Cheshire smile as he walks around the force field eyeing down Alan, who's moving his eyes to follow the man. Above them, the building is still slowly teetering over as a small support remaining is crumbling. Bye. The man waves creepily and backs off from Alan, disappearing into the dust. Panic begins to rise in Alan as he watches the building edge closer and closer to its collapse, not being able to do anything. Eventually, the force field gives off a small flicker, and Alan's body begins to barely move. The support finally gives way, and the countless stories above begin to plummet towards the ground, but the building stops with a glow of purple. It cuts to Zara holding up the tip of her wand towards the falling building, the tip also glowing purple. She continues holding the wand up and walks toward Alan in the force field. Can you hear me? Alan slowly raises a thumbs up. How do I get you out? Alan slowly points his finger down at the device, creating the force field. Zara lets go of the building above them and quickly stabs the wand into the ground, creating Zara's own force field. As the building falls under the force field, rolling off, Zara points her wand at the device inside of the force field. She shoots a spark of lightning out of the wand and into the force field. To no surprise, the lightning from Zara's wand comes to a halt inside the force field. The force field flickers again, and Alan's body plus the lightning bolt both begin to move a little more. It can't hold you forever, huh? Alan has enough speed to shake his head in response to Zara, still slowly. The lightning on the inside also begins to move. Zara puts her hands on her hips as the lightning begins to get closer to the device. Eventually, the purple lightning hits the man's device and pulses through it, stopping before the device's petals close and the nozzle quits emitting the beam of energy. Alan's body unfreezes and normally runs into Zara's force field, bouncing off of it. Alan, stunned, looks up and sees the force field surrounded by the fallen rubble. Zara stands above him and puts her hand out for him to grab. Now on his feet, Alan looks around, not being able to see anything due to the building remnants. Zara goes towards the man's force field device and picks it up off the ground, inspecting it. So, you want to tell me how you ended up in some time-slow force field? Alan walks next to Zara, also looking at the device. Some dude threw it at me. Serpent? Zara runs her finger along the crevices between the petals of the device. No, just a guy wearing all black. Maybe he's working with the Serpents, just not one of them. Alan looks away from the device and at Zara. Isn't this the building that you and Dylan were in last night? Zara slowly jerks her attention away from the device, scowling slightly at Alan. If this was the doing of the Serpents, then why would they blow up this building? If this was the doing of the Serpents, then why would they blow up this building? It cuts to Dylan sitting on a rooftop watching something in the distance, the toppled building. Upon seeing the purple glow of Zara's force field, Dylan gets an idea. He quickly swings his feet over the rooftop's ledge and runs on the flat rooftop before jumping off and beginning flight. It cuts to the front of the warehouse. The pullover doors are shut. Dylan lands in front of it on the plush grass. He speed walks to the front door and lingers in front of it for a moment. He grabs the knob and slowly opens the door. He sees the whiteboard from earlier, but nobody by it. As he pushes the door further open, he sees one person in the warehouse. Jake. Dylan lets out a relieved sigh and enters the warehouse, shutting the door behind himself. Jake! Jake, entranced by the wall, snaps his head to the shout. Confused, Jake stands up and rushes towards Dylan. Jake whispers for some reason, "Look, I know I just got the boot and whatever, but these serpents, they got something huge planned." Jake looks around the warehouse before looking back at Dylan.
Did they blow up that building?
Dylan sighs. That building is where I was living.
Damn. Sorry.
Dylan walks past Jake and towards a whiteboard with serpent information. Jake toughs as he jogs to the whiteboard. Dylan picks up the dry erase marker and opens it, beginning to write onto it. I already knew why they blew up that building. Dylan starts to draw a replica of the office building.
You think they're after you?
Dylan shakes his head as he finishes the drawing. Maybe. But that's why me and you are going to figure that out.
What? You are not dragging me into this.
You've been dragged into this a long time ago, Jake. Dylan writes main base and a question mark by it on the board. You're only just now finding out. It cuts to Alan and Zara walking through a field of grass, the pink-tinted sun still burning in the sky. Alan is holding the man's device, inspecting it. Alan forces open one of the pedals and looks on the inside, the tubes of the purple energy flowing through. This thing is pretty neat. I'm glad you find it neat. Alan flips the pedal back and looks forward, seeing a hill in front of them. Over this hill is where the device was calling me to. Your powers never made sense to me. They're mystic and ancient. The wand only helps me focus it. Alan and Zara start to ascend the hill. As they reach the top, a building is visible in the distance. Is that a... Yeah. The camera flips around and shows the mall that the serpents are held up in. On the roof of the mall, there are serpent S's painted in black. Seeing this, Alan grumbles. We gotta tell the team about this. Alan nods firmly as they walk off screen. The camera stays on the mall as it moves to a face of a different side of the mall. As this happens, the sun is now setting. Suddenly, on the dirt cliff away from the mall, Jake and Dylan land on the floor softly. Dylan tossing a paper map out from his hand, letting it fly away in the wind. What is this?
It's a 12th location we've checked.
Dylan goes on his tiptoes, seeing the serpent S's painted on the top. We found him. Dylan goes back to flat-footed and steps off the side of the cliff with Jake following. It cuts to the warehouse and is showing the main room, with the whiteboard still sitting in the middle. The front door flies open as Alan and Zara barge in. Zara's eyebrow furrow, and Alan zooms further into the warehouse. Miranda said she was going to take a day off. Well, that doesn't explain Jake. He said he was going to be here today. Alan stops searching on tables and drawers as he reaches the whiteboard. Hey, Zara. Zara walks up to Alan and looks at what he's pointing at. Main base? ? Zara glances at Alan before it cuts to the grave outside the warehouse. The dirt is parted a little more. The footprints are fully faded now. Slowly but surely, the dirt is unquieting for some reason.